Greetings everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. On this video I wanted to take a look at some of the best thrift store finds that I have ever had in my 15 or 16 years of going into thrift stores. First thing I do is always beeline it to the music section, and 99 times out of 100 there's usually nothing of interest there. But every now and then you happen to find some really cool stuff in thrift stores, and I picked out a bunch of the CDs and records that I've found in thrift stores over the years. These are some of my favorite finds to come from thrift stores. So in no particular order, first up, I got a couple of Beatles albums, Rubber Soul and Let It Be. I found these two albums at a Goodwill together. When I bought these, I wasn't really the biggest Beatles fan, even though I did like the Beatles, and I even had a couple of Beatles albums on vinyl. When I picked these up, this really kind of got me to really love the Beatles. And to this day, Rubber Soul is still my favorite Beatles album, and Let It Be would probably rank pretty high for me. It's probably like my third favorite Beatles album behind Rubber Soul and Revolver. But I just played these non-stop for a long time after picking these up, so definitely one of my favorite thrift store finds there. Another thrift store that I have in my area is just a local thrift store. It's not like a chain like Goodwill or Salvation Army or anything like that, but they have probably the worst music selection. I am least likely to find anything that I want in this particular thrift store, but I did go in there one day about a year and a half ago, and sitting on top of the CD shelf, where like most of these CDs have not moved in ages. I mean, I kind of knew what the selection was because I looked at it and not much had changed, but sitting on top of that shelf was Sabotage Gutter Flower, and just I had to buy it. I mean, I for 30 for like, not 30 cents, probably 50 cents I think it was. You're not going to have that opportunity again. Now, I wasn't really that into Sabotage. I didn't know much about them when I picked it up, but just the principle of the whole thing, I had to. So this is kind of what got me into Sabotage, because, you know, I bought the CD, I come home and I played it, and, you know, I liked it, but that led me in, eventually into getting into other Sabotage albums, which turned me into a bit of a fan. So just a chance find of a Sabotage CD in a thrift store that usually has terrible music. Not something that happens every day for sure. Let's go all the way back to 2010, and I was in a Salvation Army, and one of the bands that I was just getting into at that point in time was Collective Soul. This is early 2010, so their single Welcome All Again is still being played on the radio. That's what got me into Collective Soul, hearing that song at work, and I come home and I looked it up, and Welcome All Again by Collective Soul. Okay, it couldn't have been a week later. I was at work and they played another song on the radio that I really liked. It was Why Part 2. So I go home and I look it up, and it's Why Part 2 by Collective Soul. So okay, I gotta check these guys out. So I got on to the good old LimeWire and downloaded some songs, and you know, found out that this is the band that has songs like Shine and December and The World I Know. You know, songs that I knew, but I did not connect to the name Collective Soul. I found some other stuff that I liked, and then I went into Salvation Army and I found Discipline Breakdown, and I hadn't heard anything off of this album yet, so I bought it for $1, and it's one of the best dollars I ever spent, because this really helped to put my love for this band on in the fast lane. So I picked this up, loved it, still love Discipline Breakdown to this day. Collective Soul have become one of my favorite bands of all time, so certainly one of my favorite thrift store finds right there. Alright, another one here I got. This was at Goodwill, and both of these, I got two here. I got two here that I want to find together. I found both of these at the same Goodwill, but at different times. Started my Nazareth collection at Goodwill. first found it on vinyl, and then a little while later, found it there on CD, and that was my first Nazareth anything. So that got me into kind of the old school Nazareth. But Nazareth is a awesome band, especially back in the 70s. They had a lot of killer stuff, and prior to picking those up, I think the only two songs I knew were Hair of the Dog and Love Hurts, and just found a wealth of great material since getting into them. Also, this one behind me, Blue Oyster Cult's Agents of Fortune, I got that at Goodwill too. My first ever Rush CD that I ever owned, I found at Goodwill a few years ago. Moving Pictures. Picked it up at the time. You know, I liked Rush. Rush wasn't one of my favorite bands yet, but you know, I liked Tom Sawyer, Limelight, YYZ. You know, all the hits on here I was familiar with and I did like, so I picked it up. So my first ever Rush CD was a Goodwill find. Let's get a couple of the vinyl here. A couple of really good finds I come across at Goodwill. AC/DC's Back in Black. As you can see, the sleeve is not in the greatest condition, but the album itself plays perfectly fine. I just needed a quick little wipe down, and it played perfectly fine. So unfortunately the cover is a little worse for wear, but certainly a worthwhile find for $1. Another good one I found, Black Sabbath Volume 4. I also found this at Goodwill. Picked this up really before I became a big Sabbath fan. You know, at the time I liked and respected Sabbath, but I wasn't really that into them. You know, I since have gotten into them, and this year I'm glad I have it now, Volume 4. But at the time it was just kind of one of those things that just the principle of it, finding a Black Sabbath album for like 99 cents at a Goodwill, like you had to get it. All right. Here's another good one here. I got Blondie's Eat to the Beat. When I was getting into Blondie, I actually found best of vinyl from Blondie at Goodwill, and that kind of got me started into getting into more Blondie. And the song Dreaming really pulled me into them. So I started listening to them like on YouTube and whatnot, and I really took a liking to this album here, Eat to the Beat. Not only does it have Dreaming on it, but just a ton of other great songs. And I really wanted to get this one, and I happened to find this at Goodwill. And this particular copy plays perfectly fine until you get to Living in the Real World. It gets a little rough. You know, I've tried cleaning it and whatnot, but I think it's just a problem with the vinyl at this point. But everything, the first 11 songs all sound fantastic, but there's just something about that last one doesn't play very well. But still, really can't beat it for $1. All right, back to a couple CDs now. I've got Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. I did not get my first ever copy of Stay Hungry at Goodwill, but I got the one here. This is the 25th anniversary edition. It's got all the bonus tracks and demos on the second disc. So I was really excited to find this at a Goodwill. Of course, you have to make sure that the discs are in there, and they are, so that was a great find at a thrift store. Speaking of that, also at Goodwill, I happened to find Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. This is something that I could not believe that I had come across at Goodwill. The Judas Priest album on vinyl sounds pretty good. I also found Pyromania by Def Leppard there. I didn't get it, and I missed my opportunity for it. So you can't let those things snatch away. But I did pick this one up. I didn't let this one fall through my hands. And speaking of Judas Priest, I also happened to find Rock-a-Rolla at Goodwill as well. And I was real excited to find this one. You know, I pulled it out, because you got to be careful sometimes getting records at Goodwill. Yeah, I pulled it out, checked it over. It looked, you know, it's pretty good shape. Because a lot of the times, you get records there and they're just like moldy and like they're so brittle they're ready to like snap in half and whatnot, and they're not worth the purchase at that point. But you know, the vinyl on this one looked pretty good, so I come home, I give it a quick clean, and I was so worried about the disc itself that I didn't happen to realize that this in fact is Screaming for Vengeance, not Rock-a-Rolla. So at least I got the album cover of Rock-a-Rolla, I guess. But next time I was there looking at vinyl, I was looking to see if maybe there was like another Screaming for Vengeance that had Rock-a-Rolla in it, but no such luck. Found a couple of Kiss albums at Goodwill a while back, Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun. Again, two records that you don't normally expect to find at Goodwill. I get excited anytime I see like a hard rock record on vinyl, because the vinyl is 99 times out of 100 it is like big band, like old country gospel, like 40s Christmas albums, you know, stuff that maybe my grandmother might have liked, but generally speaking, not anything that I'm interested in. So when you find something like that, you snatch it up. Dio's Last in Line. This might be the one, is certainly of all the vinyl that I got, probably of all the CDs too, I think this surprised me the most. I would have never in 100 years expected to find a Dio album at Goodwill, especially on vinyl, and especially one that actually plays well. So, Dio's Last in Line, another great find. Last one I got on vinyl here, White Snake 87. Again, pretty good pickup. Sounds really good. So, another great vinyl find at Goodwill. Back for a couple more CDs before we wrap this thing up. I got a couple of Pearl Jam albums at Goodwill a while back. Rounding out my Pearl Jam collection. Backspacer has always been one of my favorite, more modern Pearl Jam albums. I never owned it before, but I saw this one come through Goodwill and I got real excited. Unfortunately, as you can probably tell here, the case is kind of warped. This seems like it lost a battle with water at some point, because it's just it just kind of has that feel to it. Luckily though, the book is not like ripping itself apart, damaged or anything, so the book survived, and most importantly the CD survived. The CD is perfectly fine, but the case at some point just got real beat up, which is unfortunate, but you know, most important thing is the music is good. Then a little while later I happened to find Lightning Bolt, and this one is just in like mint shape, fantastic condition, almost feels brand new. Of course the book is just in pristine shape. Disc plays great, so I was real excited about them. I'm looking now to find Gigaton at Goodwill, because that's the only Pearl Jam album that I don't have, and I found Backspacer there, I found Lightning Bolt there, so come on, I gotta find Gigaton there eventually, right? Dawkins Breaking the Chains. This is another Goodwill find. Most of these are Goodwill finds here. I think I had like one from Salvation Army and one from another thrift store, but I think most of these come from Goodwill. So I guess if you're thrift store shopping, at least in my area, Goodwill's most likely to have something interesting, even if they usually don't. Breaking the Chains by Dawkins. I was real excited to find this. I actually found this with Tooth and Nail, but unfortunately Tooth and Nail did not have a disc in it. So, and I was looking through like all the other CDs hoping to find like maybe it was in like the wrong case or something, but no such luck. Thankfully though, Breaking the Chains was in there, and I was able to get that. Last one I have for you here today, Bon Jovi's Have a Nice Day. This is the dual disc version. Of course, I bought the my original copy the day that this was released, but come to Goodwill. This was not too long ago either. Found this at Goodwill, the dual disc here, which, just a side note, I'm really glad the dual disc phase did not last. I'm not a fan of the dual discs. I don't know. I was never a big fan of that, but it is cool. You got the album on one side, and the other side you got a DVD. It's got some music videos, live performances, interview with the band. So some really cool stuff there, but really happy to have found this at Goodwill. So there we have it. A bunch of my favorite thrift store finds over the years. Let me know in the comments below, what are some of the best things that you found in thrift stores. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this in the future, and I will catch you next time.